AACSB International, the accrediting body that reviews the curriculum of top business schools in the world, including this one, conducted a study to advance ethics education in business schools. It identified 4 dimensions that it views as the cornerstones of comprehensive business ethics education. These 4 dimensions are ethical decision-making, ethical leadership, responsibility of business and society, and corporate governance. Okay, let's look at each of these dimensions individually. First, ethical decision-making. Organizational employees should use multiple frameworks that aid understanding, managing, and/or resolving issues of potential harm or fairness. These frameworks encourage decision makers to consider multiple stakeholders and attempt to take their respective perspectives in order to assess and evaluate a decision. Traditionally, ethical decision-making frameworks have included utilitarian or consequentialist approaches, rule-based or deontological approaches, and virtue ethics approaches. The consequentialist or utilitarian approach looks at what will be the likely consequences of a decision or action in deciding if that action is ethical or not. According to this approach, decision makers should analyze a decision in terms of the harms and benefits to multiple stakeholders and decide on the course of action which should produce the greatest good for the greatest number. A rule-based or deontological approach considers duties, rights, and justice. Decision makers applying a rule-based or deontological approach should use ethical principles or values, moral standards, or rules to guide decision-making and choose the best course of action. And then finally, a virtue ethics approach focuses on the character or integrity of the decision maker. As a future organizational employee and leader, you are encouraged to proactively manage ethics by communicating about ethics and values on a regular basis, influencing an ethical organizational culture through everyday practices of being open, fair, trustworthy, and caring with employees and other stakeholders, and role modeling ethical conduct. Corporate or organizational governance includes issues such as the roles and responsibilities of a board of directors, the role and responsibilities of that board's audit committee, internal controls, management's roles and responsibilities, and critical monitoring activities such as internal auditing, effective codes of conduct or codes of ethics, understanding applicable rules such as the US Federal Sentencing Guidelines and Sarbanes-Oxley and the UK Bribery Act and the Cadbury Code and the King Report from South Africa and similar regulations and recommendations from other countries, especially if you're an international business. Corporate governance also includes components of an effective corporate compliance program and the roles and responsibilities of independent public accountants, counsel, and regulatory bodies. Now, why is corporate governance important? Because situational pressures often occur many years after graduation when classroom discussions or a course in ethics such as this one are far from the consciousness of a stressed manager. Knowing the principles and practices of sound, responsible corporate governance can be an important deterrent to unethical behavior in an organization. As a future member of a business community or other organization, you need to understand the principles and practices of responsible corporate governance, as well as the complex interdependencies between corporate governance and other institutions, such as stock exchanges or regulatory bodies, in managing risk and reputation. The final dimension is responsibility of business and society. Employees' view of the profit-making purpose of the business as its sole mandate is being challenged by defining the purpose of business in terms of its social context. A business cannot function well without a well-functioning society. Thus, businesses have a responsibility to the societies of which they are a part. In fact, business and society are mutually interdependent. Business depends on society to create an environment that is conducive to the conduct of business by providing the needed shared infrastructure, things like roads and bridges, a postal system, educational institutions that educate its future employees, a stable and effective legal and regulatory environment that enforces contracts, provides safety and security, and creates a fair playing field to all competitors, and does not provide unfair advantages to those with political connections. Society depends on business to create wealth for investors, wages for employees, and tax revenue that fund infrastructure, police, and legal protections, shared public goods like our parks and our libraries, and the social safety net. In general, corporate social responsibility involves pursuing shared value, creating economic value in ways that also create value for society. So what specific behaviors count as meeting the requirements of the community values? Fitting in with a community involves having a personal code of ethics that is largely congruent with the ethics of the community to which we seek to belong. Some cultural theorists, like Zygmunt Bauman, argue that personal ethics have been compromised by the dismantling of geographical local communities and the ease of physical and virtual mobility, which enables people to belong to multiple communities and take on multiple social identities. Different ethical norms can be relevant and applicable to different communities. Consider the historical, and in the United States, a legally defensible position of let the buyer beware in commercial exchanges. According to the position of let the buyer beware, buyers should be skeptical and not believe everything they're told about an item being sold. However, members of many Native American tribes held the concept that the seller had an ethical obligation to inform buyers of any issues with a product for sale. Here, the ethical norms of truthfulness is not universal among buyers and sellers and can lead to conflicting expectations of the roles and responsibilities of parties to a transaction. Now let's look at how ethical considerations differ in the context of business. Owing to their legal responsibilities, corporations can only act with mixed motives, as I've said before, as they were created as legal entities with legally defined fiduciary responsibilities to their shareholders. But even so, organizations can do well financially by doing good. This reality has shaped the practice of business ethics so that it requires corporations not only to act as compliance-based organizations, but also as integrity-based organizations, as we've talked about before. Corporate social responsibility is shaped by both the organization's legal responsibilities, such as those to its shareholders, and the obligations that arise, including obligations to other stakeholders, such as customers, employees, communities in which the business operates, and the shared natural environment and the company's suppliers and other partners. Many businesses also adopt a triple bottom line philosophy. You might hear the term triple bottom line and wonder, like, what does that mean? Well, triple bottom line means that the business cares equally about making a profit, taking care of the people associated with the business, and conducting business in a way that's good for sustaining a healthy environment for our planet. In other words, the triple bottom line means that you care equally about people, planet, and profits. So in this video, I've argued that ethics is important to the conduct of business and effective decision-making in organizations. I've defined business ethics, demonstrated the difference between ethics and morality, as well as ethics and the law, and contrasted the shareholder profit maximization view with the stakeholder view as a purpose of business. I also offered a brief overview of the 4 dimensions of business ethics and 3 frameworks for approaching ethical decision-making: the consequentialist, the deontological, and the virtues-based. I hope you'll find this information helps you in your successful journey from the classroom to the C-suite.